Welcome back to another episode of Out of the Blank Podcast. John, it is a pleasure to have you on the show. Would you mind introducing yourself to everyone out there listening?
Robbie, thank you for having me. My name is John Russell. I've been a professional psychic for over 50 years now to a worldwide clientele. I've read for clients in over 40 countries, which just amazes me, astonishes me. I've been a paranormal investigator since age 11, and I'm also a published author with three multi-award winning books in print and more on the way.
Now, how did you get interested in psychic abilities and just learning about that whole kind of area? I mean, I think everyone has a small interest in it, but some people take it a little bit step farther and really want to research into it.
Well, I was kind of thrown into it. When I was 5 years old, I was sound asleep in bed, and my parents had left a night light on down the hallway so I could see to get up and go to the bathroom or whatever in the middle of the night. And so I'm sound asleep in bed, and I suddenly woke up wide awake. And I mean wide awake, no drowsiness, no grogginess. And I thought, well, this is really strange. And it was the middle of the night because it was pitch black outside. I could see out the windows. And I thought, well, maybe there was a noise outside that woke me up. So I laid there real still and listened, didn't hear anything. And I just thought it was strange. And so I raised up on my elbows and just kind of looked around my darkened bedroom. And I looked out my open bedroom door down the hallway where the nightlight was. And there was an elderly black gentleman peering around the doorway, looking down the hall into my bedroom, looking at me. And I screamed bloody murder because my family's white. We didn't have anyone black living with us. I don't think we even had any black friends at the time. And as when I screamed, he walked around the doorway. Now I knew he was elderly because he had close cropped white hair and he had a white mustache. So I knew he was elderly. And when he walked around the doorway, walked down the hall, started walking toward my bedroom, walking toward me, locked eyes with me, never looked away. And I can tell you what he had on. He had a red plaid flannel shirt, long sleeve flannel shirt. He had khaki pants, black belt, black shoes, and he was every bit as solid as you or I. And that's another reason it scared me to death because I figured, okay, somebody's broken in the house, and here this guy is coming to get me because he wasn't wispy, wasn't translucent, wasn't transparent. He was every bit as solid as you or I. So I screamed bloody murder again, and he was in the bedroom by then. And my parents woke up, came running, and he began to disappear. And he became translucent, then he became transparent, then he vanished. And by the time my parents were there, he was gone. And my parents turned on the light and they were trying to console me and ask me what's wrong. I said, there's somebody in this house, even though I'd just seen him disappear. And they said, no, 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 you just had a nightmare, something you watched on TV or something. It's just a nightmare. Everything's okay. And I said, no, someone's in this house. Go look, somebody's in this house. And my fright was so real and so convincing that my father went through the house, checked all the doors and windows, which were all locked up. Of course, everything was fine. He actually looked in the closets and checked under the beds. That's how real my fright was. And of course, found nobody. So they tried to console me, get me to go back to sleep. And they left the big light on in my bedroom. And it was like, okay, how am I going to go back to sleep? Because where did this guy come from? How is he solid as you or I am, then vanish into thin air? Is he going to come back? Is he going to want to talk to me? Is he going to want me to do something scary? So I'm trying to get back to sleep with this on my mind. And for the next couple of weeks, I'm looking over my shoulder constantly. Where's this guy going to pop up again? And why? And so these paranormal manifestations begin to happen on the physical realm. And my parents witnessed them as well as other people witnessing them. And when that began to happen, I couldn't articulate it being 5.5 years old. I couldn't articulate it, but intuitively it just dropped in my understanding. It was like, oh, that's why the old black guy came to open up the portal to these experiences I'm having. And intuitively, I understood that these experiences were going to be extremely important and beneficial to me as the years went by, and extremely important and beneficial to others.
Now, what was your next experience though? Like, because it wasn't just you experiencing them, was your family experiencing them too?
Family, other people witnessed these things. There were footsteps that people heard when nobody was there. Doors would open and close by themselves. Rocking chairs would rock on their own, on and on and on. So all these things began to happen, and I began to understand. Okay, this guy came to open up the portal of these experiences, and these experiences are somehow going to be very important. So as these things continued, I was out in my backyard one day playing with a toy. I was close to 6 by then, I guess. And this car pulled in the driveway, and I didn't recognize the people. I'd never met them. So I ran in the house, got my mom and dad. This was on a weekend. and got my mom and dad. And I said, hey, there's some car in the driveway, some people I don't know. And they said, okay, we'll come out and look. So they walked out the door and they said, oh, these are friends of ours. And I'd never met them. I didn't know the people. So they parked in their driveway. They got out of the car. They were standing on the sidewalk with my mom and dad and talking. And so I was goofing around with my toy. And I walked over and had this funny feeling come over me. So I just walked up to the group of adults and I stood there and I looked up at them. And I interrupted the conversation and I looked at this couple and I said, you people have just been on vacation. And I said, you took that car that's in the driveway, you drove that car, but you have two kids and you don't have them with you today, but you have two children and you took them with you on vacation in that car. And their eyes started bugging out and they were looking at my parents like, what in the world's going on? And I said, you stayed at this hotel that had this many floors and it looked like this in front and it was painted this color. And there were these particular shaped trees at regular intervals along the front of the hotel. And then in back was the pool area and it was painted this color. And this lady looked at me literally like I had cobras growing out of my ears. Her jaw was agape, her eyes were bugged out as wide as they could be. And she looked at my parents and said, how the hell could he possibly know this? And my mother said, oh, well, you know, kids and their imaginations. And my parents were just taken aback and bumfuzzled. And she said, no, 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 this is not kids and their imaginations. How the hell could he possibly know this? And my parents were like, you know, they didn't know what to say or how to act or anything. And she said, that's what we came to tell you today was about the vacation we just took. And we drove that car and we took our two kids. And the hotel we stayed at was exactly like John described. How the hell could he possibly know that? And my parents were like, go play, John. I was like, okay, nice to meet you folks. And off I went and scared them to death. They never came back to visit my parents again. It scared them so bad. And that was when I discovered that a psychic gift had arisen out of this and that I could see, tell what people had done, where they had been. And then it progressed to the point I could discern their past, their present. And then I began to be able to predict their futures accurately and to have all these tremendous insights. And so I understood intuitively all that traced back to that old black ghost coming and opening up that portal. And that's where it all started.
So you don't believe it was an inherent ability that was just dormant inside of you. You think it was when that occurrence happened.
Yeah, that was the catalyst. That was what opened up the door to everything. And of course, you have to have some inherent gift or some inherent ability in there. And all of us do to a degree, but that was the catalyst that started everything for me.
What about like when people experience like severe trauma or get into like a life-threatening incident and then they end up having some abilities afterwards? Like I believe like that's more of a way that people can somehow break through. I wouldn't call it like the fourth dimension, but break through into another plane of existence or
Right, right.
something like the
Yeah,
spirit
there's
realm.
a lot of instances where people have suffered like physical trauma, been in an accident or been electrocuted or something of that nature, and then that awakened their psychic abilities, or they underwent some severe emotional, grief or some type of severe loss or something that had a great emotional impact on them, and then that would awaken their psychic abilities. So sometimes that does come about through some particular trauma. But fortunately, we can learn to develop our abilities without having to go through that trauma. And in most of those cases, it's certainly not anything the person asked for or attempted to induce. It was just an accident that happened to them. And then as a result of that accident, boom, all of a sudden this psychic gift awakens. So there's some evidence there for trauma kind of knocking down that wall between realms, kind of thinning that veil so that people become aware of that gift. So it does happen, but again, that happens accidentally. And fortunately, there are ways, and like I write about in my third book, 20 Ways to Increase Your Psychic Abilities, there's ways to do that without incurring trauma or difficulty or fear or whatever.
Now, how did you start your process of understanding and being able to grow your psychic abilities? Because, I mean, this is before the internet. I'm assuming you're starting to, yeah. So you're trying to, are you coming across books? Are you just talking to more people? Are you discovering it's not just you alone? Because, I mean, without social media, I couldn't imagine being able to connect with as many people as out there now that have either a UFO experience or some type of paranormal experience.
Well, there were a number of people that we knew that had an interest in religion, spirituality, the psychic realm, paranormal phenomena, and so on and so forth. So even as a young boy, my mother would introduce me to those people, let me hang around those people when everybody gathered and listen to them or talk or ask questions. And then I had a very advanced reading capability from a very young age. I mean, by the age of 11 or 12, I was reading William James, The Variety of William Religious Experience, and books like that. I was reading books on psychology, parapsychology, the paranormal, the psychic realm with comprehension. And so what I did at an early age was, okay, I've got this thing. It's not going away. It's continuing to manifest. It's growing. It's enlarging. What do I do with it? Can I get better at it? You know, what can I look at for training? So I talked to everyone that I could. I allowed myself to experience, open up to those experiences and experience everything that I could. And then I read everything that I could. And the way I did that, Robbie, I looked at things from the viewpoint of, okay, let's find out this is real. This is really happening. It's not just me experiencing it. Other people are visually um, seeing these things, experiencing these things, seeing these things happen. So I know that it's real. It's manifesting on the physical plane. It's not my imagination. It's not something I dreamed up. It's not a hallucination. So I know it's real, but let's find out what to do with it and how to advance it, how to grow it. Can I get better at it? What do I do with it? So I read everything I could find. And in reading everything, my compass was, does this work or does it not? So if I read something and it said, well, you can achieve this result by practicing this technique, I'd say, okay, let's see. And I would practice it long enough and hard enough to see if it worked or not. If it didn't work, I tossed it. If it worked, I kept it, integrated it into my life, tried to understand it, and moved on from there. And I did the same with all things, um, spiritual, religious, all of the dogma, the tradition, the ritual, the speculation, everything that's out there. I would read it and say, okay, does this work in real life? Does this work in the application of my gift or not? If it's a belief system that says such and such is so, where did that come from? How do we know it's so? Can we prove that it's so? If we can't, let's get rid of it and move on. So my ultimate goal was, let's find the truth. The truth is out there. And in this investigation, and as a process of growing up, um, the psychic gift gave me the ability to hang around people and pick up on cues that other people missed, and to discern their energies, emotions, and thoughts that other people couldn't. And as a result of that, I could hang around people and I could ascertain if they were telling the truth or not, if they were being truthful. And I saw a lot of deception. I saw a lot of lies, a lot of cheating, a lot of theft, a lot of deceit in the church, in the spiritual realm, in the paranormal community. I saw people preaching one thing and doing something else, practicing something else. I saw people claiming to do things that they couldn't, and accepting money or taking money from people for those supposed services. And so I became aware that there was more fraud out there than there was legitimate gifts and legitimate things. And that disturbed me. And it set me at an early age on a path to say, okay, I'm going to expose this stuff. And I don't care how unpopular that makes me. And I don't care if I don't get to be part of the in crowd or whatever, the accepted thing. I'm going to call a spade a spade. And if it's dishonest, I'm going to say it is. And if it doesn't work, I'm going to say it doesn't, and so on and so forth. So that set me on a lifelong course to call out the frauds and the fakes and the phonies. And there's a lot of them out there. But that's how I grew that, and that's how I developed. And I just continued that process of study and learning and experimentation and examination. And I've done that, I'm 70 years old now. I've done that my entire life. It served me well. And I continue to study. I continue to learn. And having done what I did at an early age, that enabled me to spot the phonies and the frauds and to call them out, to rescue people from them and to warn people away from them. And so that's been a very positive side effect of all of that.
Could you break down what exactly is physical or psychic abilities, and then what are those components? Like, how do they differ when it comes to different psychic abilities? Obviously, you're not just, you can umbrella term it, but I feel like there's way more individual things like clairvoyance. There's a lot of things that start going on where it goes into different categories, and I'm curious how many categories there are.
You have various forms of divination, such as using a pendulum or using the tarot cards. You have dowsing rods, other dowsing capabilities. You have remote viewing, which is just clairvoyance. It's just a new age new age term for clairvoyance. You have the use of crystals and on and on and on. So there's a jillion things you can do, a jillion things you can learn. And I think the one thing I determined to do with that, you hear people say, well, I'm psychic, but I'm not a medium. Well, that doesn't make any sense, because if you're psychic, you're open and receptive to the other side. You can communicate with the dead. You hear people say, well, I'm a psychic, but I can't read for myself. Most of the time that's nonsense, because it just means you don't want to hear what's coming. You're open for some result that you want, just like everybody else does. You want to hear what the other side has to say. So there's a lot of things out there where people censor themselves. And I never did that as I was growing and learning and experimenting. And I said, okay, I'm going to open myself up to everything. I'm going to put everything, like you said, under the umbrella term of psychic. But I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to experiment with the dowsing rods. Do they work for me? Does the Ouija board work for me? Does the crystal ball work for me? Does the pendulum work for me? How well the tarot cards work for me? And so I opened myself up to experiment with everything. And like you said, there's this huge wide range of things to experiment with. So they all fall under that umbrella. And I tell people, I say, look, the problem with a lot of people is they want to experiment with everything, and they don't stay with any one discipline long enough to get good, accurate results with it. So they'll hop from, they'll experiment with the tarot cards for a month, and they'll go to dowsing rods, and they'll go to a pendulum, then they'll go to a crystal ball, then they'll go to something else. And they're constantly hopping around. They're not developing a stability, a continuity, any real growth or bedrock foundation there to build on. And so I tell people, I say, look, it's okay to experiment. If you're drawn to something, go to that, but then stay with that, practice it enough, long enough, that you get good with it, that you're consistent with it, that you can rely on it, that you know that it's accurate for you. And then if you can branch out into doing that for others, giving them readings with whatever discipline that is, that's great. But always strive for that accuracy. And that only comes through lots and lots of practice, lots of diligent practice. So yeah, there's a ton of things out there, but that's where people can get confused and go off the rails, is experimenting with too many things, trying to do too much.
Now, how do you point out a fake? How do you point out someone who's trying to just get money or scam people? Obviously, if you were on social media at all during the start of the pandemic, I was getting DMs like crazy about people telling me my ancestors are speaking to me. I'm like, you don't even know my page is called Out of the Blank Podcast. What do you mean my ancestors are speaking to me? There wasn't a real effort to try. It was more about, here's how much this is going to cost and how much these readings will be. And I think it does a disservice to the people out there who are really trying to be able to, give people information if they're seeking information. Because I have friends that are in that field, and, a lot of them, I consider them respectable because of the fact either they don't charge, or they are really just trying to not go out and fish for things and charge a lot of money. They're really just like, hey, yeah, I mean, if you want to toss me $1 or so, that's cool, but I'm more than happy to help you out and get you on the right path.
Right. The easiest way to spot a fake and a fraud, I tell people the first thing you want to do, investigate the person. Like, you can go to my website online, johnrussell.net. I've got my credentials there going way, way back. I have over 80 client testimonials. I have a ton of media testimonials from highly visible, respected media. So all that's there to examine, to look at, to verify. So you should be able to verify who they are. They should have, enough testimonials that are verifiable, that you can say, okay, this person's a real deal, so on and so forth. That's the first step you look for. Now, I always tell people too, even if you find a reputable psychic, they may not be the psychic for you. There may be a personality conflict there, or there may just be something that you don't like the way they read, or you don't like the way they tell you things, or whatever. Like I tell my clients, I'm not going to guarantee your satisfaction, because I'm going to give you what the other side gives me for you, unfiltered, unvarnished. You may not like it, may not be what you want to hear. So
I've got the death card twice. I don't know if that's good or bad, but
no, that doesn't mean anything. That's just typically means change. It just typically means change.
Oh, so that's bad. Jeez.
Well, change can be very good. Change can be very beneficial.
I'm a routine habit guy.
It depends on the context of the reading. But that's one thing you want to look for. The other thing you want to look for, no psychic on this planet. Now, I've done this professionally for 50 years, over 50 years. During that time, collectively, my clients have given me an accuracy rating in my insights into their lives and my readings and my predictions of 80 to 90%. That's pretty darn good. It's not 100%. There is no psychic on this planet that's 100% accurate. If you see anybody that claims 100% accuracy, they're lying. Don't mess with them. Get away from them. The other thing is that if you see any psychic, any medium, any spiritual worker, whatever they call themselves, if any of those people guarantee you or promise you, I can bring your cheating husband back and make him love you, I can heal you, I can get you the job you want, I can help you win the lottery, blah, 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 whatever it is. If anybody promises you that or guarantees that, run. They are phonies, liars, fakes, and frauds. Nobody out there on the planet, regardless of their strength, their connection, their power, their experiences, can make that promise to you and keep it. I've had way over 1,000 physical paranormal manifestations. Other people have witnessed them. We've videoed them. We've photographed them. We've got them on audio, on and on and on. I've had all these years worth and 40 countries worth of clients that tell me give me the feedback that my insights are that accurate, so on and so forth. I cannot guarantee you a thing. I cannot promise you a thing. For all of that, that's one thing I've learned, is that it just is not out there. The 100% guarantee is not out there. The 100% psychic's not out there. So that's one thing. Another thing that you have to look for is, it may start off small in the reading. They may charge you $10 for that first reading. If it's a phony psychic, you're going to be taken for hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars, or hundred thousands of dollars. And I've experienced that with people over the years that I've had to rescue for these phonies. And a lot of people say, well, John, if they're that stupid, they deserve to be taken. What most people don't understand, most of the people that I've had to rescue from these phonies, one person had 3 degrees, a bachelor's, a master's, and a PhD in their own business. A lot of times, the more intelligent a person is, the easier it is to fool them. And what they don't understand is that these professional phonies are con artists, and con is short for confidence artist, which means they know how to gain your confidence. They can look at you or the bank president or me or the track star or the truck driver or the cop or whomever, and they can size them up in an instant, and they can know what to say to get the right response. They know how to manipulate you. They know how to lead you. They know how to take you down the primrose path and eventually get money from you, because that's what they're good at. And they will do things that to the uninitiated look like real, genuine physical magic, like something paranormal has happened. One of the oldest tricks in the book is, when you come in for a reading, there'll be a bowl of eggs there, and they will tell you, say, okay, we're gonna look and see if there's any evil around you, if there's any curses or demons or bad spirits around you. And the way that we'll ascertain that, you pick an egg out of that bowl. I'm going to crack this egg, and if the yolk is normal and the white's normal when we crack it into this bowl, then everything's okay. But if we see anything odd in there, we'll know something bad's going on. So pick an egg out of that bowl, and it is a free choice. You can pick any egg you want to in that bowl, because what they're doing is sleight of hand. Don't matter which egg you give them, because they've got the goods in their hand already. So they're going to crack the egg in a bowl. They're going to drop the gunk in there in the egg when they crack it. And there's going to be this black, spidery, yucky, moldy, mildewy looking stuff. It'll be, oh my God, look at this. Here's evidence that you're cursed, or you have a spell on you, or bad magic coming against you, or whatever. Oh my God, well, what do I do? Well, we're going to take care of that. But taking care of that involves increasing amounts of money. And it goes up to the hundreds of dollars, and then it goes up to the thousands of dollars. Well, why do people keep coming back and paying it? Well, Spirit showed me it's going to take $1,000 to deal with this. Okay, no problem. Let's do it. And then you do that, and things are still bad. Things aren't working. You didn't get the job, or whatever, this, that, and the other. Well, I got an answer for that. Spirits have shown me that we're up against a very old and evil and powerful ancient spirit that somebody has cursed you with, and it's going to take more effort to get rid of this. We're going to have to do more. Well, what do we do? Well, and one of God, I hate this. One of the standard things, well, Spirit has showed me 3 stacks of money. $2,000, $2,000, $2,000. That's $6,000, right? So Spirit showed me the specific amount, and what we have to do. Now, this money's not for me. None of this money goes for me. It goes to the spirits. I have to make offerings to these spirits, and then I have to take this money and I have to make them a feast. and have to buy them a liquor, expensive alcohol, and lots of it, and food, and have to set it out as a banquet, and entreat these spirits to come and protect you from this evil spirit. Now, as ridiculous as that sounds, people buy into that left and right. And then it goes on from there and on from there till they've milked you for all they can get out of you. Then they go on to the next one. So, according to the New York State Attorney General, when we were living in New York and we saw an expose on these phony psychics there, some of these people are making in excess of $250,000, $500,000 a year, bilking people out of money doing that. So that's the ways that you look for. Nobody can promise you or guarantee you anything in a reading, period, end of discussion. Nobody's 100%, period, end of discussion. And always look for, oh, well, you know, have you been lately? Have you been a little tired, or have you been sick lately? Or what? Yeah, everybody has. Everybody in the whole damn world has. I've been sick lately. My sinuses are killing me. I'm tired. I'm run down. I'm old. It's like this applies to everybody on the planet at some time or the other. But when they give you these generalities, you say, well, yeah. Have you had any strange accidents? Or, well, I had a flat tire this morning. That's normal. We all get flat tires. There's nails in the road. But they will take that and build it up into a scenario where, oh, so you're cursed, or there's evil spirits around you, or whatever. So that's how you avoid these phonies.
What made you want to go after phonies? I mean, you could easily just isolate to yourself and be able to
It
help out
just
people.
disgusted me. It just disgusted me to see people promising people in need spiritual help and then ripping them off, taking advantage of them, and just being a total con artist, thief, liar, phony. It just outraged me. It just disgusted me from an early age, and it still does. The older I've gotten, the more I hate them.
Did you ever look into charismatic Christianity, those old things that used to happen back in the day where they had the revival tents?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. There's a lot of phonies in the religious world. Ernest Angley and his miracle revivals. I actually went to one of Ernest Angley's revivals, and what most people don't realize is that the big mega evangelists, the big mega churches, a lot of times, a lot of these people will seed the audience with people in wheelchairs that aren't crippled, for example. Like if someone elderly comes in, they'll say, oh, yeah, you must be tired. You don't have to walk all the way down front. Those chairs aren't comfortable. Here, sit in this nice, comfortable wheelchair. I'll roll you down front. They do that with a bunch of people. Then the evangelist comes, in the name of Jesus, stand up, be healed, walk. And everybody stands up. They weren't crippled to begin with. They were walking when they came in. So there's a lot of crap like that that goes on. It's constant fundraising, constant money. Give me this, give me that. If you give me money, Jesus is going to bless you. That's the biggest load of nonsense on the entire planet. I can say that because I'm also an ordained minister, a legitimately ordained minister, not the degree mill kind. I know that Bible forward, backward, inside and out. That's a bunch of nonsense. There's no such promise, no such thing. A lot of these people will proclaim to receive all manner of messages from God that hold them hostage to God. And one of the worst doing that was Oral Roberts, who finally wrote his fundraiser. He wrote his donation, it was his backers, the people that sent money. He wrote them a letter. He was constantly sending out fundraising letters. All these guys do. Oral Roberts did, Billy Graham's did, Ernest, all these people always send out these fundraising letters, and they go on for pages and pages and pages and pages. Well, one of the interesting things I found out as an aside was that most of them were using the same professional copywriting company to write their letters for them. So they weren't writing them. It didn't come out of their office. It came from this professional copywriting company. But anyways, Oral Roberts was the worst. He wound up sending out to his followers this letter, fundraising letter, which stated that God was going to kill him and take him home unless he raised X amount of dollars within a certain amount of time. And so it's like, my God, these people will stop at nothing and stoop to, anything. And there was one, Peter Popoff, and he had this a mega church, and people were just astonished because they would come in and he would be like, there's the Holy Spirit speaking to me. And in the front row, there's a Jill, a lady named Jill. Is there a Jill? Raise your hand, Jill. Jill would raise her hand. And you live on Oxford Road, don't you? Oh my God, yes. Well, you're concerned about your husband's health, but the Lord tells me he's going to heal him. Everything's going to be fine. Oh, hallelujah, hallelujah. How does this guy know this stuff unless God's speaking to him? He knows people's names all over the auditorium. He knows their illnesses, their ailments. He knows their spouses. He knows what they're praying for. He knows what they're going through. How? Unless God's really speaking to him. Well, these people got suspicious, and they took a radio frequency scanner in a satchel in disguise into the one of his services, and they turned on the scanner, and lo and behold, the scanner locked onto this signal, and it was coming from Popoff's wife backstage, and she was saying, "Hey, Petey, I love you. I hope you can hear me." And she would read off to him where these people were located and what their problems were, da da da. And he had this little receiver hidden in his ear that he would get this information from his wife. Now, how did they get that? How did she get that? They had prayer cards you filled out when you came in. What's your name? What's your address? What's your concern? What's your problem? What's your health issue? So, and they'd collect those prayer cards, take them back to her, and she'd just read off the prayer card and Popoff and hear it in his ear, and the little speaker hidden in his ear, and then boom, there you go. So full of phonies, full of fakes, full of frauds. And the problem with it is, you go in there and your kid has cancer. Your kid's 6 years old and has cancer, and the doctor's just given up on doing anything but making the kid comfortable before he dies. You love this kid. You don't want this kid to die. You see this big mega church and this evangelist that promised Jesus going to heal your kid, cure your kid. Oh, thank God. And you go there, oh, God, please help me, please. And they get the little information in the ear. Oh, yes, Jesus is going to heal this kid. And the kid dies. That's hideous. That's the most hideous thing you can do. Or some widower, some widow ladies in there with their Social Security check, giving half of it to the church every month because Jesus is going to bless you. You can't outgive God. And she bankrupts herself. That's theft. That's lies. That's hideous. Or you go to some psychic, promise is going to do this for you, do that for you, cure your, help you with this, and they don't. They take your money. That's theft. That's fraud. That's a lie. So all of these things absolutely outrage me, and they should anybody. Everybody should be outraged by such a thing. And I've devoted my entire life to calling out the fakes, phonies, and frauds, and will continue to do so. And within my own profession, there's a ton, and it just disgusts me. It's really sad.
Do you have the belief that everyone is born with an inherent psychic ability and then we kind of just choose to use it or lose it?
I do. I believe that everyone has an inherent ability to a degree. Now, when I say to a degree, we can all sit down and take piano lessons, and in 6 months' time, I might be able to play chopsticks, and that's it. And in 6 months' time, you might be ready for the concert stage. So we all have degrees of talents and abilities, and it goes to its own level. And the same way with psychic abilities, we all do have an inherent degree of psychic ability, and it is trainable to a point. But then everybody will plateau at some point. They'll reach a degree where, okay, that's about as good as I get. But we all do have it, yeah. And that's why in my book, my latest book, I train people. I take them by the hand step by step, whether they think they have psychic ability or not, or whether they think they can do it or not. I take them step by step, lead them by the hand, explain what each technique is, how to do it, how to get good at it, how to practice it, and then the real world application of it. And I do it in such a simple way that anybody can do it. So this has been a real boon for people. This my third book, for people that wanted to develop their psychic abilities, didn't know how, didn't know if they had any, found other things too complicated, too misleading, too misguided, too expensive, whatever. This is an easy way for people to learn to develop and to do that.
Now, what happens when you get older and you want to try and hone in your psychic abilities? What do you go to? Like, what's some methods that people can try and practice at home, if they want to learn how to really keep their psychic ability and try and fine tune it in a way?
Right. I encourage people to find a form of meditation that works for them. That's one of the best things you can do. Um, the main thing that I stress to everybody is go directly to the other side, to whatever your concept of that is, whether it's God or Buddha or the great universal mind or whatever that is. Go to that and say, okay, here I am. I want to learn more. I want to understand more. I want to advance more. What do I need to do? What's the next step? Show me what to do. And then get quiet and listen. Wait for that inspiration and that guidance to come to you. And it will. If you do that consistently, it may come the first day, it may come in a week, it may come in a month. But if you do it daily and do it consistently, then you get quiet and listen and wait for that guidance. It will come to you. And then the most important thing to do when you get that guidance, act on it. That's the next step. Put it into practice. And then when you've done that, you go back to the source again. You say, okay, I've done that. It's working for me. I feel like I'm ready to move forward again. What's the next step? What's the next rung up the ladder? What's the next brick in the road? Where do I go next? What do I learn now? And repeat the same process. Get quiet, listen, wait for that inspiration, wait for that guidance. When you get it, act on it. That builds on the other thing, and you keep going, you keep going.
What about when someone can lose their ability? Do you believe that there's any types of decisions or life things that you can make that would cause someone to lose their ability, whether it's linked into like moral conflicts or emotional responses or something like if someone's over, I would say, an increasingly over amount of stress and they decide to take out their anger out on individuals, would that cause someone to have a diminished capacity for their psychic abilities?
I don't think it would immediately. Over time, it could. I think anyone that starts to use their gift in an irresponsible manner or to take advantage of people, I think that certainly they can begin to lose that true gift and that true ability. Um, I have heard of some people that have had the opposite happen, where, excuse me, where we're discussing earlier about someone having a traumatic physical event and then discovering they had a psychic ability as a result. I've seen a few instances where people have had a traumatic physical event and appeared to lose their psychic abilities, at least for a short amount of time. But unless you're just doing something so egregious that the other side goes, we got to shut this person down, I don't think that you lose anything, but you can become lax in your gift. If you don't practice it regularly, if you don't use it regularly, it tends to decline. And it's, the spiritual realm works just like the physical realm does. If you want to go to the gym and bench press 100 pounds for reps, and you get to the gym and you find out you can only bench press 50 pounds and you can only do that 5 times, and your goal's 100, you go to the gym 3 times a week and you bench press that 50 pounds until you can get up to 60 pounds and then 75 pounds and then 80 pounds. And then finally you make that 100. But if you don't keep going to the gym and keep bench pressing that 100, if you slack off for a month or two, you might go back to the gym and, oh man, now I can only get 70 pounds up. What happened? Well, everything decreases without use, without practice. So the same thing with the psychic gift, with the spiritual gift, you have to continue to use it. You have to continue to practice it.
What about when it comes to, I'm not going to say, like a downside, but kind of a downside to using psychic abilities. Obviously, the people start to experience a lot. Like for me, for instance, I'll give you an example. For me, if I soak up too much energy, I believe people give off energies, but if I'm around too many people, and it might be part of my ADHD, maybe, I don't know, but if I soak up too much energy, it drains me very quickly. And so I usually try and do a lot of my work. Like I'll go grocery shopping first thing in the morning when stores open up, and usually people aren't there. So you get maybe one or two people there, but it's easier on my mind to be able to sift through because if I'm in crowds of people, after 5 minutes, I'm soaking up everybody's attitude, everybody's mood. And my buddy had the best like kind of example for me. He goes, the way I introduce you to people is I say, Robbie gives out the energy you give out. And it's true. I just match people's energies. And most of the time in the mornings, when you're saying like I have a front desk job or something, you say good morning, people kind of go and they walk away. And then after a while, you're kind of like, all right, I'm not saying good morning anymore. You know what I mean? It's just like, even though it's part of your job, you just don't feel the connection there.
Yeah. Yeah, you're a very strong empath and you pick up on those feelings readily. And what you have to learn is ways to create a buffer for yourself for that. One of the best ways to do that is envision yourself in a bubble of white light and just project that energy outward and make that energy a buffer or a barrier between you and other people's energies and emotions. The other thing that people need to learn to do is, we have to balance ourselves. And the more time you spend in spiritual work, the more time you need to spend in secular things. You need to garden, or you need to go out to eat at your favorite restaurant, or you need to go watch a movie or read a book or take a nap or sit outside and stare at the sky and watch the clouds for a while or whatever. All of these things are essential to our well-being anyways, because we're multifaceted beings. And we have all these layers, just like an onion. You peel one layer back, there's another.
But you remember what you were saying? I'm sorry.
Yeah, about the our lives being like onions. You know, onions have layers. You peel back a layer, there's another, there's another, there's another, and each one of those layers is integral to our lives and represents something. We have layers in our lives. We need to work, we need to play, we need sex, we need food, we need water, we need rest, we need sleep, we need hobbies, we need inspiration, we need music, we need all of these things in our lives. So we have to integrate all of these things into our lives anyways to be a normal, well-rounded person and to be happy. If all we do is work, we don't get enough rest, we don't get enough play, we don't have any hobbies, we don't have any exercise, we neglect our eating, whatever, it's going to damage us. It's going to be a deleterious way of life for us to live and to experience. So we need that anyways, but especially when you do spiritual work, you have to keep in balance and you have to ground yourself. The best way to do that is to make sure you have a well-rounded access to all these other things in your life, and that you're acknowledging and nurturing these other layers that we have.
Now, do you find that social media has been a help or a hurt to the whole psychic area?
Oh, it's been a big hurt because, for one thing, you have a proliferation of people that buy a deck of tarot cards and a book and give their neighbors two or three readings, and now they're an expert. Now they're a psychic. Now they're ready to hang out their shingle and guide people's lives. You know, that's nonsense. I've done what I've done. I've studied my entire life. I've devoted my life to this, and I've studied and worked and studied and worked, studied and worked. It doesn't come overnight. So I think it's been a big hindrance to the legitimate psychic realm in that way. Another thing is you have anybody and everybody can come on there and say they're a psychic or provide services or offer this or offer that or whatever. So that's a hindrance. People come on there with their particular viewpoint or their dogma or their tradition or their ritual or whatever their church teaches or their group teaches or whatever this book said or that book said. And they expound that as the gospel, if you will, and that, you know, this is going to be the way and cure all your problems and give you, and it just doesn't work that way. You know, it just doesn't. So I think overall, it's just muddied the waters even more. And there's a lot more out there for people to have to wade through and have to sift through and have to figure out, is or isn't this person the real deal? Is or isn't this teaching the real deal? Should I follow this? Should I invest time, money, effort, energy in this? And it's giving people too many bad choices, I think.
Now, when it comes to tarot, how do you know that that was the one for you?
Oh, I love the tarot. Well, for one thing, I'm an artist, and I was immediately attracted to
They're pretty
the
cool. They're pretty
yeah,
cool.
the artwork in the tarot because it's beautiful. I have over 100 decks, and I buy them not only use for my clients and for myself, but I buy them for the incredible artwork because each card is a beautiful work of art. And from deck to deck, that artwork varies. And then there are decks with various themes, and I was just immediately attracted to that. And then I also believed, as I still do, and as I teach in my third book on how to learn the tarot, I felt that there was an inherent ability in the tarot, as I feel there are in all metaphysical tools. And I was attracted to that. And so I wanted to take that and learn that and become the best that I could at it. And as I studied the tarot, I became aware of this organization. It was called the Tarot International, and you could get the degree of certified tarot master. Now, I don't believe I'm a master of anything. I don't believe anybody's a master of anything. You never master anything. There's always room for improvement. If people were masters, the guy that wins the 100-yard dash and would win every race, he'd never lose. If he was a master, you never master anything. If you look at people that are phenomenal guitarists, Joe Bonamassa, Tommy Emmanuel, all these other people, they'll tell you, I hit wrong notes on stage, or if I don't practice, I fall down considerably. I look at these guys and I follow these guys because I like guitar. And they'll say, man, I haven't played in a couple of weeks. I hope my calluses are there. I hope I remember my songs when I get on stage. Now, these are the world's best telling you this. I just saw Joe Bonamassa the other day saying, I watched myself in a video and I was bending the string, how you bend string up to bend up to a higher note. And he said, I was bending sharp. I didn't realize it till I watched it and listened to myself. I was bending sharp. I had to correct that. So nobody masters anything. We just don't. But the degree was certified tarot master. I was like, okay, I need to do this. So this was way back before the internet. You know, this is back in the day. You ordered the course, it comes by mail. You get your first lesson, you fill it out by hand, you mail it back, you wait, it comes back graded with another lesson. That's how you did it back in the day, right? So I did this course, and the course was really neat because they included some things that were very unique as far as the interpretation and use of the tarot. And I enjoyed that. And the lessons made sense. It helped me to really ground and integrate myself with the tarot in a practical way so that I could really make it work in a practical way for the people I read for. In other words, I'd get real insights into their lives, get real predictions for their futures that actually came about. And then the culmination to get your degree, you had to send in 3 separate extensive readings for 3 different people. And these were all written out. There was pages and pages of stuff that you had to write down. What spread did you use? What cards came up? How did you interpret those cards? What did you think each one meant for the client? Now, the client, what did they think about the reading? Did they think you were accurate, you were right or wrong or indifferent? How in depth did you go? No. So it was very extensive, and you had to do that for 3 separate people and send that in, and they had to grade and evaluate that. So everything in the test that I did, I aced all the way through, and I got the degree of certified tarot master. So I've always had a love affair with the tarot. I still use it, still enjoy it. And there's so many things that you can do with the tarot that people don't realize. You can use the cards as amulets or talismans. You can use them for protective devices. You can cast spells with the tarot. There's a number of things you can do. I touch on some of those things in my book as well. So yeah, I've had a lifelong love affair with the tarot.
Cast spells? What do you mean cast spells?
There's a lot of different ways you can cast spells with the tarot. You can choose a card to represent yourself, and then you can use a card to represent an aim or a goal that you have that you want to achieve. And then you can use supporting cards from the deck that to you represent energies or forces that are going to help you achieve that or accomplish that or manifest that. And then you can lay those out in various ways and focus on those, concentrate on those, send energy into those, visualize the result happening. Maybe you light candles with that or put crystals with it if you're so inclined. And you can use tarot to cast spell to do a number of things.
Now, how deep do you go with your readings, though? Do you try just to leave more light touch stuff, like simple stuff, or do you focus on really deep stuff, like
Oh no,
communicating with the...
I like to go as deep as the other side leads me. And what I do, I don't go into a reading with anything preset. I go where spirit leads me and what they give me. I'm going to tell the client what the other side gives me, and what the other side gives me for them is going to be what they need at that time in their life. And whatever they give me, I'll go as deep into it as I need to, as deep as the other side shows me. But no, it's never light or superficial. The readings are always deep and meaningful. And I always challenge my clients to say, look, take this seriously. Write this down, keep notes on this, look back on this, refer back to this. And it's so funny because a lot of times there will be people that will tell me, oh no, John, you missed the boat on this one. I said, look, just write down what I've told you, refer back to it. And invariably those people will call me back weeks later, months later, sometimes years later, and say, John, you were right. I didn't see the possible way it would happen, or I didn't believe what you said, but it came about. I've had that experience happen many, many times. One of the funniest, I had done a reading for a lady that worked for my credit card processing company. And it was the very first reading she had ever heard in her life. And I was like, oh, I'm happy and excited to be able to do this for you, so you don't fall into the praise of the con artists and the ponies out there. You get preyed on by them. So she was really excited. So we did this reading, and as we went along, I asked for her feedback. How accurate do you think this is? How accurate are my insights? So she said, this is amazing. You're just blowing my hair back. It's just blowing me away. This is awesome. So we got down to the end of the reading, and I said, you're going to move. I said, it's more of a you will than a choice, but it's going to look very favorable to you. So I'm saying you're going to move, and you're going to move to Nevada, I believe Las Vegas. And you're going to stay in the same line of work, but you're going to own your own business. You're going to do this for yourself and open up your own business, and you're going to make more money than you ever have. And she started laughing, literally laughing. And I said, what is it? She said, John, she said, up till now, she said, this reading has absolutely blown me away. It's been one of the best experiences I've ever had. It's been mind boggling. I don't know how you've done it, but she said, hon, you're missing it here on those three things. She said, number one, I hate Nevada. I'd never move there. I especially don't like Las Vegas. She said, number two, it would take, I don't know what, for me to be able to open up my own business in this field because it's extremely hard, extremely complicated, a lot of channels to go through, a lot of money involved. And number three, I'm pretty much topped out in my field. I couldn't see myself earning more money than I am right now. I said, just remember this, holler back at me down the road. So several months later, she called me and she said, John, I moved to Vegas. And she said, I opened my own business in this field and I'm making more money than I've ever made in my life. I said, that's awesome. She said, I just had to let you know. And she said, what's so funny? I had forgotten you told me all those things. And after I moved, started my business, and I'm making all this money, a girlfriend of mine said, didn't that psychic tell you all this was going to happen? And she was like, oh, yeah, I forgot. So people will even forget the things that come true that you've told them. It can be very, very frustrating. It can be very, very odd. But yeah, I always go in depth for people. Whatever the other side gives me, that's where we go.
Now, through like obviously TV shows and stuff like that, people have still maintained an interest if they're not exactly involved into the psychic stuff. I mean, do you consider it a help or a hurt that there's shows that kind of use it or maybe glorify it up a little bit, Hollywood it up, but do you sense any real truth in it?
The worst thing that's happened to us is the TV shows and like the Ghost Hunter TV shows, so called. It's come out that one of the biggest names in that industry has faked things for the show. That came out in the news, last year. And I have it on authority from some of the on-air talent in these shows that they've been asked to fake things or to work up a cry or right here, can you scream and run out of the room, even though nothing's happened. And then I have it behind the scenes from one of the production people in one of the production companies that became aware of some of the antics and shenanigans that some of these shows and some of these people were doing and outed that and exposed that. So there's a lot of fraud there, a lot of fakery there, a lot of making things up. The other thing is the main way that these shows are not beneficial to the understanding and growth of the paranormal and spiritual community, the psychic realm, is that these are absolutely not anything remotely what it's like to actually interact with the other side and to experience psychic gifts. Not remotely, not at all. For one thing, everything is fear-based. Everything is scary. There's always a demon. There's always a monster. There's always a boogeyman. There's always a negative energy or a negative spirit or something dangerous or blah, blah, blah. It is not like that. I've been doing paranormal investigation since I was 11 years old. I have never been scratched, never been hit, never been pushed, never been threatened, never been cursed, never had anything negative happen to me in these investigations that I've done over the years. So they automatically set people up to expect fear and to expect danger and so on and so forth. And if you go into something expecting something negative, you're going to interpret everything that happens as something negative. That's the filter that you're automatically going to view it through. So these shows don't represent what it's like to interact with the other side. They don't factually and accurately represent what it's like to be psychic. They're designed to entertain people, to scare people, and to put butts in seats to make money for the advertisers. And that's all these shows are designed for. And it really distresses me to watch most of these shows because they present such a warped view, such a skewed view. And especially now it became popular several years ago, everything's demonic, everything's a devil, everything's a demon, everything's scary, everything's out to get you. And it just is not that way. It is not. Trust me. I've lived my life doing this. And like I say, I started paranormal investigations when I was 11. I'm 70 now. I've continued to do them for my entire life. I've done high profile investigations. We filmed a TV pilot for the History Channel where I psychically investigated the assassination of Lincoln. We went to all these historic places and I gave all my psychic input, interacted with these spirits, with these energies and everything else. And, another thing I think that happens is that people misinterpret a an action or a reaction from the spiritual realm. Because if you're going in naturally fearful and something happens that makes you jump, and you've been told, oh, it's dangerous and it's scary and there's demons out to get you, then you go say, oh, that ghost doesn't want me here. That ghost is trying to hurt me. That ghost tried to scare me. You know, that's not the case at all. If you're disembodied and you can't necessarily appear physically, although ghosts do. I've had them appear to me physically many times. But at that moment, maybe you don't have the energy or the right conditions to appear physically, but you can knock something over or close a door or make a sound and get attention some way that way. That's what you're going to do. And that's how you get attention. That's how you let somebody know, hey, I'm here. And then the response to that is not scream and run. The response is, okay, I acknowledge your presence. Who are you? Can you tell me who you are? Can you tell me why you're here? Do you have a message for me? And you interact. That's what you're supposed to do. But these people, and it is, my wife and I used to talk about this all the time. It's just ridiculous when so-called professional ghost hunters go in and say, make your presence known, and something happens and they scream and run like little girls. It's like, that's what you're there to experience. Why are you screaming and running? Why are you
You
scared?
asked for it.
Yeah, you asked for it. You know, if this scares you, you shouldn't be there. You should take up welding or candy making or go sell cars or something. It's like, for God's sake. So yeah, this whole mess with the shows on TV has been really deleterious, I think, to the entire spiritual realm.
Well, my last question here before I get you to promote your links and everything and where people can find your work, what would you say to anybody out there that's looking to maybe learn more about their own psychic abilities, and ways to be able to hone and sort out proper information from incorrect information?
Yeah, get my third book, 20 Ways to Increase Your Psychic Abilities. It's available at all booksellers online. And I wrote this to separate the wheat from the chaff. It's not got gobbledygook. It's not got unworkable theories. It's not hard to understand. Most importantly, the tools and techniques in it work. And readers worldwide have been emailing me and saying, hey, John, I've been doing this, and guess what? It works. And so it's important to understand that these things can be simplified, that they can be integrated into our daily lives in practical, easy, inexpensive manners, and that they can be made to work. And again, consistency. You have to stay with it. You have to, you have to work with it daily, but it can be made to work. It is real. So I would recommend that to everybody. For those that want to learn more about me and my psychic abilities or get a reading, you can go to johnrussell.net, and that's for my psychic work. And then to find out more about the books I've written and the books that are upcoming, because I have more in the works, go to johnrussellauthor.com. So it's johnrussell.net for the psychic work, johnrussellauthor.com for the books.
I'll make sure I link all your links in the description. John, seriously, it's been a pleasure being able to talk with you about this.
Robbie, it's been great. I appreciate you having me on. This has been a blast.
I do have to ask, you were on the History Channel, weren't you?
We shot a pilot for the History Channel, which unfortunately didn't air.
Yeah, the Abe Lincoln thing is something I gotta have you back on to discuss for sure.
Oh,
I
we
will
could
do a
do
whole
that. Yeah, I'd
episode
love
on
to
that.
do that. Yeah, it was really fascinating. It was really amazing.
But I will link all your links in the description. John, seriously, it's been a pleasure, and thanks everybody for listening to this episode of Out of the Blank. Stay tuned for next episode.